everyone. How is everyone on this September evening and it's not raining? So I want to welcome you to our September meeting of the Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt Democratic Club. I'm Nicole Williams. They've been telling me I'm the president of the club. So I just want to welcome you so much for being here. This is our first meeting after our summer hiatus, and we're super excited to be here. And so in our true fashion, the first thing we typically do is the Pledge of Allegiance. So the flags are in the back up top, so if everyone can stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. So we're going to, I know everyone has an agenda. There should have been one on your seat. But we are going to modify the agenda a little bit. So instead of going through the minutes and the finance report and everything else, we're just going to go straight into the speaker. Because she does have to leave here exactly at 8 o'clock. So I want to make sure that she can tell you how wonderful, she is and Ben is, and how everyone needs to go out and vote and help out and all that other fun stuff. So, but first, if you're not familiar with Susie Turnbull, I have this really long bio. But I guess I'll just speak from personal experience. I met Mrs. Turnbull, I feel like it's probably about at least 10 years ago, back when she was the secretary of the DNC. Oh, vice chair of the DNC. And at that time, I was a young little whippersnapper. I was really involved with the Young Dems. And she came to speak at our statewide convention for the Young Democrats of Maryland. Since then, she's also served as chair of the Maryland Democratic Party and has done a lot of advocacy work over the years, especially for the Jewish community, and has just really been just a bedrock of the Democratic Party, especially in Montgomery County. She's been super supportive of young people throughout the years who've been interested in engaging in politics, and she was the one who encouraged me to apply to the DNC Youth Council years and years ago and supported me in that position. And so for that, I'm extremely grateful and thankful to Susie. And so now, in her next foray, she is running for Lieutenant Governor for the state of Maryland with Ben Jealous. She's also here with her husband, Bruce, and they've been married 42 years. And so without further ado, I just want to welcome Susie Turnbull. Thank you so much for coming to our meeting this evening.
And I've always been very proud of Nicole and all she's achieved. Yes. And has really stood up and stood out all these years. And so it's good to be here. What most of you and Emmett knows is that I started in Maryland in the summer of 1973. I came here to go to graduate school, and I lived at Presidential Park in Adelphi until we moved to Chelsea Woods. So I lived just down the street when I first came to Maryland, and I've been here a long time. So basically, when you think about this, and as Nicole described it into my new foray, most people turn 65 and they retire. I turned 65, and that month, Ben Jealous announced me as his running mate for Lieutenant Governor. And I have to say, it has been an unbelievable 10 months at this point. And I know that we have approximately, less than 40 days left at this point, which is really exciting. This week was a very special week in our campaign, and I would like to talk a little bit about that. It started out on Monday with a fabulous debate in Baltimore, the only debate, which is really unfortunate that it was the only debate. But it was the only debate, and one of the things, if you haven't seen it, I urge you to go online to cspan.org or mpt.org, and you can watch the debate. One of the things you'll see in that debate is that Ben has plans, we have plans for our government, for Maryland to move forward, and Larry Hogan doesn't. He talked backwards. He talked about the past. He talked about Martin O'Malley, actually, which we really don't understand what the theory is if what you are talking about is moving in a direction. Our direction is forward, not back. Martin O'Malley used to actually say that, forward, not back, in his 2010 election. And what we want to do is make sure that it's very simple. We want our schools to be fully funded. And the issue right now on fully funding means the Kerwin report, which will be coming out this fall, is going to say that we need $2.9 billion more in our schools to really bring them up to where they should be. What Governor Hogan did over the years is just get the bare minimum. And there is a bare minimum required in Maryland, but he never did anything more. And that's why the issue of the lockbox is so important. We support that referendum. That referendum was a legislator's referendum.
Yes.
That was not Larry Hogan's. So don't let anyone be fooled by that. He did not suggest a constitutional amendment. I guess when you are the person who created the budgets that didn't supplement education funding with casino funds, it's easy for you to say, oh, let's have a lockbox. It doesn't make sense. What we want to do is move forward. We want to make sure that where does that money go? What's that $2.9 billion additional dollars for? It's for a universal pre-K.
Yes.
So that kids start in kindergarten ready to learn. Someone talked to me a couple days ago in Prince George's County at a breakfast and said, I have a 4th grader. If this little boy would have started school ready to learn and ready to read, they would have noticed that he was dyslexic. He is now in 4th grade, and now they're finding that out. What we want to do is get kids ready to learn from the beginning. And we want teachers to have the tools and the experience and the education and the training and the salaries that they deserve. Teachers from across the state is even in here in Prince George's County, we have teachers who are coming in from Anne Arundel or driving down from Howard or driving up from Southern Maryland because they can't afford to live in Prince George's County on the salaries they have. And those are the teachers. And then you have the educators who unfortunately are making even less, the aides in the schools, who are barely making much above the minimum wage. That has to change. And what we have promised is that our teachers will do that. And we'll have in 7 years, we'd like to raise their salaries 29%. The third thing that we are talking about, the most important part of education for us, is making sure that every child graduates, every youth graduates, actually, with a job and a future. And the ability that if they don't go to college, they'll have had the vocational training that they need to succeed in our society. Not every kid is going to go to college. And we want to make sure that they're prepared. But at the same time, we can do what some kids are able to do here in Prince George's County, which is pair their community college courses with their high school courses. So that what we're talking about is graduating, potentially graduating high school with so much ahead of in the bank, basically, that they can enter college potentially and not need full 4 years. They might be able to do it in less time. That's a savings to everyone. That's a savings to everyone. But if they don't want to go to college and they graduate with those college credits and an associate's degree, a joint degree at the end of high school, look at the advantage that could be for them in their future. That's what we'd like to see. And we want to make community college everywhere free. not just for some students, but for all students. I look at things a little differently. Bruce and I talk about this all the time. I went to college in 3 years, and it was a financial issue in my family. I was really fortunate to be able to pile in all the extra courses in my 3rd year when I realized that I could possibly do that. It saved me thousands of dollars, and it brought me here to Maryland in a way that would never have been available to me. My dad was an immigrant cab driver. My mom worked in a department store. She would get home from work at 9:30 at night. 9:30. She would take 2 buses to work, and at night, my mom didn't drive, so my father would go and pick her up, sometimes with me in the back seat of the car, because she started working when I was in 2nd grade, because my brother went off to college. And I look at this and I think back at that. No kids today have that kind of ability to spend the summer working in a department store, which is what I did, to save enough for the next year of college, because college costs are so insane. Ben tells a story. His grandfather and his grandmother came to Maryland in 1941. His grandfather would work on the B&O Railroad, his grandmother to work at Planned Parenthood. And when they came to Maryland, what they did, it was amazing, is that they were living in a public housing, and at a certain point, they were able to go to college, and because it was affordable. And Ben's grandfather, went to law school for 1 year. He was in one of the first classes that allowed African Americans, black men, in college. He went at night. It was $200. $200. If we had inflation and look at the cost of living now, that would have cost $2,600 now. But it costs $31,000 now. So you have people who have debt, unbelievable debt, so they get caught in jobs that they might not want. And they are stuck with these debts for years and years. For me, I had a college loan that I didn't pay off for 10 years, which is what a typical thing was. But when we did it, college interest rates were about 2%, so it didn't make sense to pay it off. Now we have people, and I know someone very, very close to me, who pays her college loans that are like a mortgage every month. For an expensive house, a mortgage every month. That doesn't make any sense, and we want to do something about college debt. These aren't radical things. These are real things for real people so that young people have a future and can do things differently. The same thing is what we're talking about in healthcare and in the economy. For healthcare, we want to make sure that everybody has access to healthcare. We want to make sure that everyone has the ability to get the care they need, whether it is physical care or mental health care. That's what's really important to us, and that's what we're going to strive for. We're going to make sure that we take on those drug companies who are gouging people with their prescription drug prices. And our state has moved a long way, but we haven't come up with a long-term solution. The solution this year is one to deal with rising healthcare premiums. Some people right now in Maryland have suffered from 120% increases in the last 4 years to their healthcare premiums. That doesn't work. And right now our legislature, fortunately, has created a system where they have a 1-year fix. Well, that 1-year fix, they bring them down 20% at the most. You're still up 100% in 4 years. That is not a solution. And so a long-term solution is what we strive for. And in the economy, there was a great editorial this week in the Baltimore Sun that occurred after the debate on Monday. And I urge all of you to take a look at it. Because basically what Ben said that day was that we're falling farther and farther behind. Our wages are stagnant. And the Baltimore Sun said we are right and proved it. What you can see in the region, our wages have not increased at the rate of any of the other states in the region. Our GDP is lagging behind. And if you look at this, and you look at Virginia, for example, Virginia's wages are behind. They're top in the region, and they're still below the national average. So look at where we are. The last issue I want to talk about, which is really important, is the issue of crime. There's some question that people have, and, well, what are you going to do? We need to really nip this in the bud. And I will tell you right off that our administration has on our website, our campaign is on our website for something we would do in our administration, a long and extensive justice reform package. That it also includes police reform. And we believe that we can not only save money, but we can be safer. In Maryland, the murder rate has been up 34% in the last 4 years. And I'm talking outside of Baltimore. When you add Baltimore in, it's over up 50%. That is not sustainable. We have to do something about it. We have to do it quickly, and we have to do it one way to do that is to do the other things that I talked about, which is education, health care, and building on the economy so that people won't be lacking opportunity in the ability to move ahead. So what people are going to say about what Ben wants to do, and what I want to do right there with him, is it's hard. It's really hard. And guess what? Nothing worth doing isn't difficult. And his grandmother tells it this way. His grandmother's 101. She trained Barbara Mikulski as a social worker. And she sounds like quite a pistol, is what I have to say. What she used to say to Ben is, baby, you can't half solve a problem. Because if you half solve a problem, you still have a problem. And what we want to do is not take halfway solutions. And so for all those people who say to you, well, you know, Larry Hogan's not that bad. Since when is not that bad good enough? Since when is a C from the NRA a good thing, which is what Larry Hogan had? In this instance, there's one grade in your life that it's okay to get an F, and that's from the NRA, and that's what Ben and I got. But Larry Hogan gets a C on everything, and that does not stand for courage. Not for courage. This week, what did we see downtown with Kavanaugh? And I live in Montgomery County and lived right across the street from Holden Arms School. And I can tell you what has gone on in our communities for years and years and years, that someone who feels so privileged, who believes in his heart above everything else that he deserves to be on the Supreme Court regardless of anything else, that's wrong. That is just wrong. And you know what? Larry Hogan wouldn't vote no. He hasn't said he would vote no yet. He said, oh, when he looked at this, he said, okay, maybe they should investigate him. This is weeks and weeks after the first issues came out. John Sarbanes said this last week. Larry Hogan is not a first-day governor. Ben Jealous would be there on the first day. He doesn't have to, put his finger in the wind to see what the decision he should make. And so that's why we called for an investigation immediately. And that's why we say we would vote no on someone who would not stand up for women's rights, for voting rights, for equal rights, for human rights on the Supreme Court. We didn't like Kavanaugh before yesterday. So what can you do? There's plenty. knock on doors, make the phone calls, write postcards, email your friends, do all those things. Come to a great music fest. Come to a great music fest on Sunday, October 7th from 12 to 5, right on and the New Deal Cafe. You could do it. You could do it. Join us. Send us contributions, because all of this makes a difference. We have more organizers today. Not only do we have more organizers, we have over 50 organizers on the ground across the state. In 2014, they had 10. Larry Hogan didn't win because Democrats voted for him. He won because Democrats didn't vote. Well, if ever there was a reason to vote, I mean, this club is named for a reason to vote. It's for all of the progressive issues that people have stood up for. That's who we are. That's who the Democrats are. And there is a difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. Full stop. Full stop. So I'm asking you, you're going to be hearing from our organizer from Prince George's County, who's going to tell you how you can get involved personally. But I can tell you, we're going across the state. My husband reminded me, Bruce told me earlier tonight, I'm over 17,000 miles. 17,000 miles, a lot up and down 495 and around and through and up 95. But we've reached out to Western Maryland and the Eastern Shore, and I'm going to Cecil County this weekend and Queen Anne's County tomorrow. We are everywhere. And Ben's doing the same thing. He's in Hartford County tonight, from one end of the state to the other. And everywhere I go, the crowds are bigger and bigger. People who haven't been engaged before are engaged now. How many of you have seen clubs like this where if you ask, I've seen this in Calvert County, for example, where I've walked into a club and I'd say, how many of you were involved in a campaign before? And 40% of the room raised their hands that they had never been involved. So let me try that here. My guess is most of you have been involved before, but let's see, how many of you are new since 2016? There's always somebody. Always somebody. We expect turnout to be amazing. And for the primary, people didn't think Ben and I were going to win. People really said no, and polls said it. We weren't going to win. We won by 10 points in 22 out of 24 jurisdictions across the state. Well, guess what? We're only just beginning, because people, if you underestimated, you always can do better. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to continue to do this because 26% increase in the votes for Democrats in the June primary was unprecedented. We're going to do that again. It's 2018. There is no reason for anyone to stay home. There is every reason. Healthcare, education, the economy, and our values. So I'm going to end on that. I will say one more thing on that, on our values. My favorite day in the entire campaign was standing on 95, overlooking the Beltway, with 24 hardy volunteers holding signs saying, "Stop family separation." And I remember walking over and hearing these huge trucks beeping their horns. They were just waving at us and beeping their horns. And you really get choked up when that happens. And it was loud, and it was clear, and it was a signal. And these people are going out every Friday night at 4 o'clock on this overpass and they're waving at the trucks coming and going down 95. That's who we are as people. That's what we want to do. Stop. The best message that we can send to Donald Trump is that we in Maryland are standing up. Because, you know, Sarah Palin used to say she could see Russia from her front porch. We can see the White House. We can see the White House. So we in Maryland have to be there and make the change that's so necessary, because it's our values and it's our future and it's all of our kids. Thanks so much.
So before, I know you have to leave, but we have one thing. Conrad, do you have the thing? Yes. Conrad has the thing. So we know you have to depart, but we want to leave you with a small parting gift. The board, and I just have to clear with the membership really quick. The board has decided to make a donation to the Ben Jealous campaign of $500. And we would just like to put forth that to the membership. So if I can get a motion and a second from the membership, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Great. So we have.
All I have to do is find it.
Okay, so we have a check for you made out to the Jealous campaign. It's $500. We know it's not, you know, the big $6,000 check, but we know that every little bit counts and every little bit helps. And so thank you so much.
This pays for a couple weeks of an organizer.